Folks, first of all, welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this first EMEA EIS session, Expert Insight Series. It's a new initiative by Cisco to have a more demo-driven sessions around new features and specific requests we get from our customers on, a specific topic we would like to delve a bit deeper on. So this is the start of a journey, really. Myself and Razvan are going to present today on the topic of Cisco Splunk Unifying Observability Portfolio. Now, before I start, quick introduction. My name is Jared McNeil. Been with Cisco 7 years. Time flies when you're having fun. My current role is as Customer Success Specialist in the Observability domain. Razvan, do you want to do a quick introduction of yourself?
Definitely. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone, joining and the interest for the session. My name is Razvan Pike, as I mentioned, Raz in short. Same team as Jared. We're focusing on Splunk AppDynamics, and I've been with Cisco for close to 16 years.
Brilliant. Thank you, Raz. He's got a couple of years ahead of me, so I'm always on catch up. Right. Okay, folks. Today's topic, as you can see here, Cisco Splunk Unifying Observability Portfolio. We'll do a bit of housekeeping first before we get into the agenda of today's session. It's not going to be more than 1 hour, just to let you know, just to make sure if you've got other meetings and tasks to do, we'll keep this as concise and to the point as possible. Around housekeeping, we like our audience to use the Q&A in the WebEx. I think it's a good way to communicate, but if anyone wants to, verbally ask a question, they can put their hands up, as you can see here, and we'll come to that at the end of the session. So Raz or myself, whoever's not presenting at the time, will try to respond to you on the Q&A via the chat, and then anyone who prefers the medium of actually talking, we can unmute you come the end of the session. Okay?
Yeah, and just one more thing. It's like you see next to that hand icon, there is like an emoji icon, which are the reactions. Feel free to use that during the session if there are things that you really like or you don't like, just like it's a nice way to interact, keep the session going.
Love it. Yeah, good call out, Raz. Yeah, we like our emojis. Okay, so what's the agenda today? As I say, these types of sessions we're going to try to be, definitely within an hour, maximum 1 hour, but definitely we're going to keep, time is precious. Everyone, it's finite and everyone's got other tasks to do. So today we're going to talk about what is unifying observability. We're going to have a couple of slides around the Cisco Splunk observability portfolio, and then specifically we're going to talk about, as you can see here, LOC, which is Log Observer Connect, basically LOC for short, what it is, why we've developed this feature in the first place, and then we're going to go into the demo where my colleagues, you're going to be in the expert hands of my colleague Razvan, actually showing you it through the controller and the Splunk Enterprise and showing you what comes together and providing that Log Observer Connect feature. We're trying to be less slidey here, folks. We don't want to be deaf by PowerPoint. We want to be more demo driven. So there shouldn't be too many slides. There is going to be some Slido, some questions, just to gather an understanding from our perspective of the audience and what setup they have within their specific environment. And then at the end, Razvan's going to ask you about topics you may be interested in future series. This is not a one-off. We're going to have regular Expert Insight series every quarter. Okay, so very quick slide on this. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but really it sets the scene. Really what we're trying to do here is highlight obviously that observability is not just monitoring. We are now interested in the what, the where, and the why. That's happening across more and more complex enterprise environments, and trying to get that granular, understanding of how your end customer experience is with the specific feature or service you're providing. So we're moving away from that binary approach if a service is running or if it's not, and we want to get it deeper into how the user is experiencing that specific service as well. Okay, so what's really important around this is this whole concept of cross-domain correlation. That's the fundamental difference, and that's what we're trying to do within Cisco Splunk observability portfolio, is to meet that specific use case. Now, how you can meet that overarching vision, and that's where we're going to introduce in the next couple of slides. Right. I think it's important to be aware that, yeah, as you know, or may not know, Cisco purchased Splunk, and as a result from that, we've consolidated our observability portfolio offering. And this is the 4 platforms now we concentrate from a context of our observability domain. So quite quickly, I'm going to give a high-level summary of each of those just to be aware of it. And this is why this feeds into the integrations we're looking to deliver now and in the future. So you've got your foundation, your Splunk platform. So that includes, for example, Splunk Enterprise, Splunk Cloud, and that provides your underlying platform for log analytics, data management, and identity. And then you move on to Splunk AppDynamics, so you're looking at the application, infrastructure, and user experience layer. And that's where AppDynamics comes into play for those free tier data models. And then alongside that, you have Observability Cloud, which is optimized for those cloud native environments, and specifically for those customers which require open telemetry. And then on top of that, you have what we call ITSA, so IT Service Intelligence. And that basically ties all those other below components together to provide that overall intelligence layer targeted at, those type of personas around IT ops teams, and bringing that business context and correlation into specific events and analytics. So taking that into consideration, why did I just mention that slide and the portfolio that we currently have, is because today we are looking, and we have GA'd already. It's out there, it's available, various integrations between those different platforms to bring that whole cross-domain correlation, as I mentioned a couple of slides back, around observability snap monitoring. So you can see examples of the different integrations we have. This slide means these are all GA. They're not in the roadmap from a short term, medium, long term. They are available now. And what we want to do in today's session is specifically concentrate on one of those integrations, being the Splunk AppDynamics and Splunk platform integration, what we call LOC, which is short for Log Observer Connect. That's what our focus is today, but we just wanted to highlight for the audience there's other integrations as well, which may be of interest of you. You may want to learn more about it. Now, if you do, put it in the chat. We'll do a Slido as well, and we'll get that feedback. We'll gather it and look to have further sessions down the line.
And that's important, Gerard, right? That's an important point, because with this session, so we're going to have like a series, so feel free to keep an eye on the new sessions that will come up, and we're going to focus on each of these integrations. Today we're starting with Log Observer Connect, but with these sessions we want to focus on the things that are, like we say, on the track, like the things that you can actually start using today, right? And we're going to show you what it is. We're going to show you a demo. And then if you have more interest, feel free to follow up either with the success team that you're working with from Cisco or with the account team.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, exactly. I can't echo that point any more strongly. Is that we don't want to just present to you. We want to hear from you guys as well, from the audience. And with that information, we'll make sure each of these new sessions we have in the Expert Insight series are meeting specifically that came from our customers. Okay, so we're going to get into Slido. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here to join the Slido. You can see the passcode here. Basically, we want to learn from you, from the audience today, which products you're currently using. Is it AppDynamics? Is it Splunk? Is it both? Because this will feed into what the demo which is going to do further down the line around prereqs and on and what you need to have to avail of Log Observer Connect. So we're just curious to get an idea. Okay, we can see people are starting to respond, which is fantastic. We'll give it a couple of minutes. That's 2 people responded. There's 3. Seems to be all. There's Ismail and the chat. AppDynamics. We've got some Splunk people. Great. Fantastic. I wonder, is it separate, or do you have Splunk and AppDynamics, or is it just Splunk, or is it just AppDynamics? So we haven't got anyone coming back on both. There we go. We've got 7 people. Let's give it another couple. There's Antonio. He's mentioned both. Fantastic. That's good. That'll be something that we need. There we go. We got 11% on both now. Yeah, this is good. We've got 9 replies. Let's give it another minute or 2 just to get a feel of the audience and what their current setup is.
That's good to see, right, Gerald? Because we also work with customers and we get the question like, hey, what can I do today? And that's one of the reasons also why we chose Log Observer Connect as the first one.
Okay. Yeah. It's from the enterprise customers I talk to, some of them have both, some of them just have AppDynamics, some have Splunk. But from going on site, I get a lot of questions on what our vision is and what are we doing around this whole acquisition of Splunk by Cisco. And this is the start of the journey. But I think you made a very good point earlier, Razvan, that this is not just talking today, folks. This is delivery. We have this available today. So if this resonates with you, with your setup or your current setup and something you want to delve deeper, as Razvan says, we can, follow up and do a deeper dive on that and contact our customer success and account teams. Okay.
That can made a good point, right? There are so many customers that choose to have the implementation on-prem, and that's actually a good segue in the next question, right? And the last one, and then we're going to go into the content, right? So it would be great to understand, how is the implementation on your side? How many are looking into the on-premise? How many are using the SaaS version? And we actually have quite a few customers that use both, right? And just again because of sometimes regulations or just because of choice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this follows up from the question there's Antonio says it's both. So we're getting, this is interesting. It's probably what I expected. I don't know. What do you think, Razvan?
Yeah, I mean, we work with customers on a daily basis, right? And we see this question is good to see it validated right now with the audience that we have, right? So that's nice to see.
Yeah, it is. That's good. Thank you for everyone who's taken part in the Slido and putting in the chat. This is really good. It's good to have an interactive session. It's never nice just to talk and, there's no feedback. So it's good to get this from everyone so far. So thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Let's get down into the meat here now. And so we sort of set the scene from a context from Cisco, Splunk, AppD perspective and where our portfolio is and where, and what we're sort of the vision we're looking to do. Now we're delving a bit deeper here on why we had today's session, and this is around Log Observer Connect. And this is probably why everyone's probably joined in the first place, not to hear about the whole overarching vision, but here go, right, what is this? This is new. I've never heard of it. So I think we probably agree that the IT environment and that monitored environment is changing all the time. Like applications and services changing constantly, daily. The technology you're using, the seamless integration they're expecting, that ability to keep context. And context is a word I'm going to repeat a lot today. Context. So that context preservation is crucial to efficient incident management. So basically trying to identify issues and trying to resolve them. If you keep context, you'll be able to do that a lot quicker. And we know applications continually change for our customers. They're always releasing new versions, new updates, new features. That makes it challenging to maintain that contextual visibility across those different monitoring tools. You may be personally, the customers I work with, they don't have one monitoring tool. So I'm not going to tell you all they use is AppDynamics. It's not true. They are Splunk. They use many, especially the large enterprise customers. So it's hard to keep that context if you're switching between various tools you use for your monitoring environment. So this is the reason why we've introduced Log Observer Connect, is to bridge this gap. So what we're looking to do is helping to enrich log data with AppDynamics metadata. Therefore, by doing that, again, the word context, you're preserving the context during navigation between Splunk AppDynamics and Splunk Enterprise. So it's going to help you around that unified observability vision, which we touched upon very short and high level view, but this is what we're looking to deliver to meet that unified observability vision and really the experience for our customers, especially those with Dynamics and with Splunk. So what we're looking to do with Log Observer Connect is integrate Splunk AppDynamics with Splunk Enterprise, Splunk Cloud Platform. And with that integration, you can troubleshoot issues across your on-prem, hybrid, multiple cloud environments without the need of utilizing multiple tools. That's the overarching vision there. So in summary, Splunk Log Observer Connect, or LOC, you hear me calling it out a lot, is to enrich application logs with metadata specific to Splunk AppDynamics. So don't worry, this might, you go, right, I'm not sure I'm getting the message here. Hopefully in the demo, which Raz does, we'll correlate the theory behind here. So we'll get to the demo quite quickly here. But you're going to have deep data links on the controller UI, which can directly navigate you from Splunk AppDynamics to the Splunk platform with a single sign-on and view the logs corresponding to the application, tier, node, business transaction, and transaction snapshot. So it's quite powerful. You can see here, this is just a screenshot of example of a demo controller we have. And you can see here, view logs in Splunk. That's basically your deep link into Splunk. But the game changer from my experience when I first seen this, when engineering and product highlighted to, demo tools internally within Cisco, was the ability to maintain that context depending where you start your journey from. So either from application, BT, transaction snapshot, tier, node, you're going to have that context maintained. So that's the what behind it. Now we're going to talk very quickly on the why. So you know what Log Observer Connect is. Why have it? Why did our product team and engineering come up with this integration? And really the whole point is here trying to get the best of both worlds. If you have a customer with Splunk AppDynamics, you have a customer with Splunk Enterprise, and they're separate. They're used maybe for different use cases. And we know that Splunk Enterprise is, number one in the market for around log monitoring. From a Splunk AppDynamics perspective, we go, okay, can we utilize that? We're together. We're under we're one team here now. We're not different. We come together and meet our customers as one team. And we want to take the benefits of both. So what we see is a lot of pain points from customers you've communicated to us before around, for example, correlating logs with specific applications or transactions from a context of how Splunk AppDynamics approaches observability. And what they said is we may identify a problem quite quickly, but it's trying to resolve it, why it's happening in the first place. So that can lead to a lot of prolonged troubleshooting. So to get those application related logs, your SREs or your engineers have to search for logs related to all services, nodes, etc. So it's quite a generic approach to get down into that granular specific node or tier or transaction snapshot where you have a correlating log where you can really get down to, right, why is this causing this poor user experience or maybe outage? And that can cause a lot of manual effort. So with Log Observer Connect, we're looking to embed logs with AppDynamics metadata, as I mentioned previously. And that, again, you're going to hear the word, provides that context based on application or business transaction or tiers, nodes, and transaction snapshot. So it makes it a lot easier to navigate the users to Splunk logs by application context and obviously time as well. So that's a big game changer, folks. That will hugely reduce the time spent not just on identifying issues, but having that correlation, as we mentioned before, a way to start around that cross-domain correlation. So the value here, I think it's called out, it's going to hugely enhance your capability around log search ability, providing faster insights and more efficient resolution. And then also another reason for the why or a pain point we're trying to maintain or review and resolve with Log Observer Connect is by clicking on that link, view logs in Splunk, as I showed you in the previous slide. And don't worry, Razvan's going to show that in practice very soon. You can navigate users directly to Splunk Cloud or Splunk Enterprise with that preserved context, time, and date. Again, reducing that mean time to detect your MTTT. So the switching between monitoring tools, as I mentioned, from experience, a lot of my customers, they're all enterprise customers, they have multiple monitoring tools and they can lose context by switching between them, which makes sense. You know, they're separate platforms. You're looking to do something else and you're moving on to another platform and you're looking to that. It's human nature. You're going to lose context. So what does that mean? You're going to have additional time spent re-establishing that investigation scope around identifying the issue and trying to resolve it accordingly. So with this preserved context navigation, you can seamlessly transition from Splunk AppDynamics to Splunk Cloud. You maintain that focus and reduce the need to reconfigure those search parameters if they're totally separate platforms. Okay, so that's going to have the value of basically, you know, giving you that helping you give you that context around minimize downtime, accelerating detection, diagnosis of issues, you know, improving that whole operational efficiency within your team. And one final point here is on pain point is a lot of feedback I got from customers is around, oh, we're looking into investigation through AppD, and you know, we love logs. We love trying to get into logs and, you know, investigate them because they give you the way of something that's happening around a per user experience or maybe an outage, depending on the specific pain point. And what we're looking to do as well is minimize those dead end investigations. So we're going to only provide the deep data links to logs only when they're available. So you won't be going down into a dead end or a cul-de-sac, you know, looking for a specific log around a specific investigation if it's not there. The link won't be there if those specific logs are not available. So you don't waste time searching for them, basically. You know, the link's not there, the logs are not there. So that means you're saving the time again. You know, it's a more targeted approach, you know, more seamless approach, streamlines the investigative process and allows for, allows the team to focus on basically actionable data rather than data which does not exist to help you identify and resolve the issue. So yeah, that's the way. We talked about the what. This is the way. This is those critical pain points. We have this available out there at the moment. I know of large customers which have actually already deployed it. So, you know, it's there, it's available. So that's good. And I think, you know, that's enough slides. We said these type of sessions are going to be more demo heavy, and I'm going to now hand over to my colleague Razvan, and it's very capable hands, and he's going to talk about requirements, resources, and also demo the actual Log Observer Connect feature. Over to you, Razvan.
There we go. Thank you, Gerard.
No problem.
That is great. Yeah, let me quickly go into presenter mode. We actually had a question.
Okay.
And I answered that, but actually we'll cover some of the, I will cover the points. The first point, you will see it during the demo. For the second point, in the resources slide, we have included actually a link to a YouTube video published by our team, which walks you through the high levels of configuring the integration on both platforms. Of course, Much more details are in the documentation as well, but it's not a complicated process. So looking at the practical part, how does it actually look? And we have a demo environment. I'm going to walk you through a quick scenario, but I'll also show you, where you will find this integration, that button that Gerard mentioned. This is kind of addressing that wish, sometimes we are doing a troubleshooting, trying to understand the problem, and we get to a point, especially for, let's say, for the AppDynamics users, we're getting to a point where I wish all this context would guide me and have a look deeper into what actually was recorded in the logs, right? And this is basically what the integration, this Log Observer Connect integration provides. Before I go into the environment itself, I think it's important to touch the requirement. Yeah. First of all, because the licensing that you need for this, you already have it, right? So you need the APM licenses from a AppDynamics perspective, and then you need the logs, the ingestion-based licenses or SVC-based licenses on the Splunk data platform core. So on-premise with Splunk core or on cloud. The integration is available for both implementations if you look at the versions. So regardless if you are a user of AppDynamics SaaS or if you are a user of AppDynamics on premises, starting version 24.10 for SaaS and version 25.7, which was actually released last month, you are able to enable this integration and already start using it. From the universal folder perspective, from a Splunk perspective, where is the communication between the Log Observer Connect, right, and the metadata injection and everything that needs to happen in the background after the integration is turned on, you need to be on version 7. Now, we had quite a few questions, especially for the SaaS users from different customers that were asking, do I need to have the 2 instances in the same cloud region? And as of today, yes, this is what the case is. We are addressing that scenario. And if you are in a situation where you need this to cross regions, feel free to let us know, and we'll definitely share that with the engineering team. But we are working on enabling that as well.
Yeah, I'd just like to jump in there on that. I think that's a really good point you made around the same cloud region. I had a customer who came across this specific deployment they have around AppDynamics CSaaS and their Splunk cloud instance. They were in different cloud regions. Technically, it should work. It's basically, first of all, I want to call out, but we don't officially support it. But I will also, full transparency, we have an active internal Jira on this. It's been accepted by product on the roadmap, and it's planned to be delivered in Q2. So when we officially support it, but I actually know of a customer who did a POV, and they had that specific setup where the 2 instances were in different cloud regions, but it still technically worked. But officially, we will support it in the next quarter once it goes through legal and the necessary testing, QA, performance testing, etc. Okay.
Thank you, Gerard.
No problem.
Okay. Then the other thing is, just because the question was put there, we have the resources slide, and this will actually it's a 20-minute video, I believe, and it will walk you through some of the content today, but also the steps that you need to take and what you need to do in terms of an integration, and then some other resources when it comes to the documentation where you can find more information. Okay, so with that being said, let's jump into the environment, right? So first, I'm going to divide this in 3. One is I'm going to show you in AppDynamics where you will find to activate this integration. I will not show the part on the Splunk Enterprise or Splunk Cloud. That's in the video because I don't have an environment right now that's available. The second will be, I'll show you where you will find that magic button, so you can, so you are aware in which places in the interface you can benefit of this integration. And then third, we're going to just go through a scenario and just see the flow, right? Bear in mind, this is a demo environment, right? So we have applications that turn in circle, basically. So sometimes we have all the information we wish. Sometimes we have more limited information. So right now, let's see, like, people that do demo usually say like what the demo guys will actually help with today. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So basically, what do you need to do to enable the integration on the AppDynamics side? You need to go to administration. And this is quite straightforward. You go to the integration tab. And in here, you can see we have out of the box multiple integrations. You can see, so Splunk logs is the topic of today. So this is actually Log Observer Connect. You can enable that on Splunk Enterprise and Splunk Cloud. For each of these, it will require different information, right, depending on the environment. But next to that, you can see that we have the integrations that were mentioned earlier by Gerard as well, right? So we have ThousandEyes in here. We also have Splunk Observability Cloud. So in those cases where you are a SaaS user, for example, an AppDynamics SaaS user, and you are also a Splunk Observability user, there is an integration between the two, which help, let's say, from infrastructure monitoring. And we can definitely touch on that as a topic at a certain point, if that is something which is of interest. So just feel free to, like, I'll be in YouTube, like, I'm not going to say like and subscribe. I'm going to just say, like, just mention it in the chat, and we'll take that as a feedback. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward, the way to enable the integration. The licenses, as I mentioned, there is nothing else that you need to buy. Of course, it depends on the utilization of your licenses today. Yeah, that's something that you need to definitely keep in mind. Okay, so now let's go to the second point. Where do we find this integration? So already Gerard showed a print screen. So the first place is going to be, once we activated the integration, it will be on the flow maps. So first stop point is the application level. So we have this application in our demo environment. It's called AD Commerce. We have all the information related to this application that those that use AppDynamics are very familiar with. And already from this point, we can jump into the Splunk platform and take the context of this specific application and narrow down the logs that are captured in Splunk Enterprise or Splunk Cloud. But we can drill even further. So, for example, if we go into a tier, let's take this one, we're going to see we have exactly the same integration. So now we're taking the application and the tier in terms of context. How about if we go even further, right? So how about if we go into a business transaction, right? So let's say, let me see, let's just pick a business transaction in here. Let's take this one. Here we go. Now we have the flow map for the business transaction. So now we're adding the specific BT into the filters that we have already injected through the metadata. So we can jump again into the Splunk data platform. Can we go even further? Of course. So now we've seen the flow maps, right? How about if we go into a node directly, right? So let's say we can pick up a node, and we're just going to randomly pick one up, right? So here we go. We have the flow map, which is focusing on the specific node. We get the context of the node. Now we can, again, narrow it even further down. Then if we think about that scenario where we do the troubleshooting, let's say there is an issue, right? And usually we get into the snapshots, right, during the flow. And actually, let's do that. Let me go back. Let me change this to a wider range. Let's do 4 hours. Let me go back to the same application. Okay. And let's assume that we got a call where, different parts of the business are mentioning the fact that we have errors or is very slow when it comes to one of the services that are delivered by this specific application, by the e-commerce application. So right now we are on the flow map. We can see everything that's related to this specific application. We see already, right, based on the capabilities of AppDynamics, we see that we have 5 business transactions that are in critical state. So that threshold that we've set in terms of health rules, the critical state has been crossed, right? So we can narrow it down. Let's have a look. right? So now we see all the transactions. We can see a number of transactions in here have different stages from an error perspective, okay? So let's scroll further down. We can see different information. So actually, I have it here, taken out. Let me go back just a second. It used to be there, but it's no longer. No worries. So we can look, for example, let's take the checkout. So in the checkout, we can see that we have across the critical level, but we also see that this is an important business transaction from a business perspective. And there is a high risk from a business, but also from a security perspective, if this is not properly working, right? So it can directly impact the ability for customers to buy things from us, but also there is a big problem or a big chance, right, from a security perspective, a big issue from a security perspective. So that's how we get this score computed, and that's another component of AppDynamics that is helping us. So for example, I'm looking in here, I'm gonna just try to find one which has some errors so I can show you the flow. So for example, this one has 5 errors in it. Let's see, okay, so let me just open this one. Okay, now we are specifically in that business transaction. What we can do is to go to transaction snapshots. Okay, in the transaction snapshot, so we're continuing now our investigation. Let's go to the slow and error transactions so we can narrow it down. And let me try to look for a transaction that, let's say, has errors in it. Let's scroll down. Here we go. Also, I'm going to pick one that has, a full code graph, so we can get like the full context that we actually need. So once I click on that one, basically it's going to take us to the view of that specific snapshot, right? In here, we can see the timestamp when they started. Then we also have our AI algorithms, part of the AppDynamics, that already highlight a number of potential issues. And we can see in here that we have an error state. We can see some potential, let's say, leads that we can follow. And again, this is automatically done, right? So the AI algorithms behind the features in AppDynamics will summarize and provide this as a suggestion. But also what we can do is to move basically into the Splunk platform. So this is like the 5th place, right, where you have access to this integration. And we'll continue working on this, right? If you need to have it in different other places, just let us know. Again, we're going to capture that and definitely share with our engineering to make it part of the prioritization. But basically what happens the moment I press this button, we have single sign-on. So there is no need for, even though you're crossing between platforms, you don't need to just log in, put your details, all that hassle, right? We're trying to make it first as fluent as possible, and then second, to make it part of the flow of the troubleshooting. So now we're jumping into the logs, and in here we can see that the search is already created for us, right? So this is part of the context, taking the context, where we have, we see the application name in here, and then we see the exact request. So this is the global ID, that is basically this one, right? And this is taken and it's helping to narrow down to the information that is important into getting to the root cause of this issue, or what's creating a slowdown, or what is generating an error. In here, we have narrowed down to 12 events, right? So if I go, for example, if I go back, let me see, if I go back to this one, I pick, no, let me just go back. So if I go back to just the list of transactions, we do have it narrowed to slow and error transactions. But if I jump into the logs platform, the Splunk data platform, from here, then we're gonna run into 400,000 events, right? Imagine trying to figure something out of it. And of course, the Splunk data platform is extremely powerful. So you can do a lot of manipulations in here. You can use SPL, you can create already dashboards. But sometimes in situations like this, when you do troubleshooting, you don't necessarily know what you need in advance. You just need to have the flow. And then, you can decide if you wanna create a specific dashboard or a report on alert that will help you be notified faster or maybe even prevent a situation that might arise. Right. So now going back, we can see that. So we had an error. Just let me recap. So we had an error. We had some suggestions in here. We can see duplicate information. We can see data integrity violation exception. So now we're going back into the logs, the 12 events, right, where we narrow it down. And we can already see in some of the recordings or one of the recordings, you can see in here the data integrity validation exception. So basically this is related to, it can be one of the potential issues. We can expand this information. And in here we can see the context that is coming from AppDynamics, right? It's already injected, right, from AppDynamics. So the application name, we can see the BT ID, the node ID, the request ID, so what was used actually to get and narrow it down to this specific set of logs. And then also the message that we were receiving in there. And from here, then you can go back and have a look directly into the node, into the logs, and continue or draw a conclusion. And so I hope this helped.
Razvan, can I just jump in there too? I think it's, I think this is such a powerful, story you've highlighted here on this demo, the different points where you can start the journey with Log Observer Connect, either from the application node tier, but highlighting how many events can be returned in Splunk Enterprise, depending on where you start. So you've gone to the transaction snapshot. So that's a very specific point in time. You can see it only responds to 12 events. But I wanted to highlight as well, not just that context, we're keeping the same context around time. You had set to the last 4 hours from the Splunk AppDynamics controller. And when you went to Splunk Cloud, Splunk Enterprise, the same time context was set as well to time range of the last 4 hours. So it's used in the context of where you start on the controller, and also using a variable of time and maintaining that as well around investigation. So yeah.
Exactly, Joe. You are so right. So even if you think just about, we have a 4-hour window, jumping from here into the logs, the amount of events we have in the 4-hour window, and then just using the flow, the troubleshooting flow that we have in Appdy, just going inside the snapshot itself and jumping from there with the same context window and narrowing it down to 12 events. I don't even want to do the calculation from a percentage perspective, what that means, right? But within the same window, just narrow it down to the relevant events and then be able to draw a conclusion, or at least get maybe a lead to continue the investigation. And then there is another thing, is like, this is bringing the two teams together, right? So there are many more things that can be done as a follow-up, right? Either directly into the data platform, the Splunk data platform, or maybe even into the AppDynamics platform. So I guess the message is, even though, yeah, these two are separate, but like Gerald was saying, like we have not met a customer that is just using one tool to do everything, right? So what we're unlocking here is more value especially for those customers that say that have both, right? We're unlocking more value from the investment that you've already done. And then for those that have one of the two, you get to see what can be done, what's the possibility. And this is like the road that we're embarking on, to make sure that we bring the best of both worlds and make it as easy as possible for you to consume.
Fantastic.
That was the demo. Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
No, that's fantastic. I'm just saying, I just found it very impactful. So thank you. I hope everyone else feels the same. What the art of the possible is, really, with Splunk AppDynamics, and if you have a Splunk Enterprise and Splunk Cloud, it's really just marrying the two together, and together we're stronger and provide those specific pain points and use cases you may be encountering, and having the ability to avail of that investment you made, for example, on Splunk Cloud or Splunk Enterprise, around your troubleshooting and your operational efficiency. So yeah, fantastic. Sorry, I know we're nearly up on time, so I'll stop interrupting you.
That's such a powerful point, right? And then just to go back, right, this integration, some of the integrations that are there today, right? And we
Yeah.
will create sessions for each of these and other integrations that we already have. We just put these in here.
Thank you very much for your time today. Raz, over to you to conclude it.
Oh, sure. Just a big thank you to everyone. We really hope it was useful, and we wait for next sessions. We're going to definitely put our heart and soul to make them useful and practical. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.